Hey, this is Drew Baird from Moon Audio and introducing the Raven IEMs from Empire Ears. Their slogan simply reads, "The pursuit of extraordinary," and that truly embodies the excellence these IEMs exude as I listen to them for the first time. I've done an unboxing and a first impression video already, but let's dive into what makes these IEMs very special. The Raven utilizes so much of what Empire Ears has learned since their beginning in 2015. No other IEM company I have seen has innovated at the same level over such a short period of time. Their innovations and unique uses of different technologies to really push the boundary of IEM driver technology is truly remarkable. Miniature subwoofers, electrostatic drivers, bone conduction, balanced armatures, dynamic drivers, and passive radiators. Moreover, there are innovations such as ARC technology, sync crossover technology, EIVEC, which stands for Empire Intelligent Variable Electrostatic Control, Weapon X, dual conduction architecture, and more. I could go on and on, but what does all that innovation mean? To me, this has delivered some of the best IEMs, in-ear monitors, on the market today. Now let's dive into the Raven IEM review. The Raven utilizes what Empire Ears is calling a quad-brid dual conduction IEM. It utilizes 12 drivers, which comprises of the following: dual W9 subwoofers, 5 proprietary balanced armature drivers, 4 electrostatic tweeters, and a W10 bone conduction ultra driver. And it utilizes the following unique Empire Ears technologies: proprietary multi-point sync crossover network, dual conduction architecture, EIVEC MK2, which is their Empire Ears Intelligent Variable Electrostatic Control technology, HRC, which is the Harmonic Resonance Core, ARC, which is the Resonance Mitigation technology. It is rated at 2 ohms with a sensitivity of 108 dB. The frequency response covers a whopping 5 Hz to 100 kHz. This is remarkable, and at this load and sensitivity on various DAPs and headphone amplifiers I used, ones being the Korg tube circuit, the IEMs remain dead quiet. Why is this important? With higher sensitivity IEMs and a tube circuit, there can be noise influence at times, so I'm always listening to these things when I write the review. Again, the Raven IEMs remain dead quiet. A little history on the Raven. Empire Ears has been working on this one for a while. They initially showed it to the world in 2022 in Tokyo at the Portable Audio Festival. It made subsequent stops at several more shows over the next 2 years: New York Can Jam, Singapore Can Jam, and where I got to hear it for the first time at Axpona in Chicago back in April. At each stop, Empire continued to improve and develop the sound signature. The biggest challenge was the enclosure. And when it comes to bone conduction IEMs, this is super important part of the equation. Think of it as similar to building a 2-channel speaker and making the cabinet of the speaker as inert as possible to reduce any sort of resonance from the box. This can mean the difference between sloppy sound and tight articulate sound. And this was my big takeaway from Axpona 2023. When I listened to them for the first time, Empire Ears still had not finalized the enclosure materials, and for that matter, hadn't finalized the tweaking of what they call the Harmonic Resonance Core. A big part of the finalization was the stainless steel faceplate, and to my knowledge, unless I'm mistaken, at Axpona the whole shell was just acrylic at that point. All materials have different resonance frequencies, and one of the best examples of how sound signatures can change based on materials is with the Grado headphone lineup. These drivers are slightly tweaked from model to model. The Grado lineup has ear cups that are plastic, different types of wood, and then metals. Each material had a different resonance characteristics and thus changed the tonality from series to series. I always preferred the metal enclosures like the PS1s, which I still own to this day, and the PS500s. They were just smoother. But back to Axpona. At the time, I felt the bass weight and the balance between either the bone conduction and possibly the Weapon X W9 subwoofers were just too meaty, if you will. The sound was a little too thick and felt like the balance was thus off from the mix in the mids and the highs. It was a bass monster. However, I could hear the potential that I know Jack and Dean Vang were not finished with this envisioning for the final tuning. Fast forward to last week when we received the final production model. The final fit and finish feels so much better than I could have imagined. There are 2 finishes to start: a gold-plated stainless steel launch editions and what they are calling a standard edition, which is a shiny black stainless steel. I found the black to be less assuming and sultry looking, very much like Darth Vader's helmet color. We are now entering the dark side. If you ever read my reviews in the past, I typically listen to 4 songs on all of my initial reviews. And while I did listen to them, I did not choose to start with them for the first time. Based on the look and feel of the IEM, I felt like heading straight to the AC/DC album Back in Black made the most sense. Hell's Bells were perfect into really explaining why both a well-tuned bone conduction and W9 subwoofer driver could do. I know this does not make sense, but the way I can describe what I felt and heard with the kick drums was identical to being at a rock concert, where you can feel the heart-pounding bass waves fly past you. It was as if a wind gust just blew by me. Absolutely insane. I can't remember any IEM pulling this off. So based on that, let's talk a little bit about the design. Empire is using what they are calling quad bridge design. Empire does not use off-the-shelf IEM drivers. They have proprietary drivers built to their own specs. This removes all limitations on design. They don't have to stay within the guardrails of existing mainstream components. This is what puts Empire ahead of the curve in terms of audio excellence. The new W10 bone conduction driver is an industry first, and as Empire had to engineer a unique sandwich plate to circumvent resonance issues associated with a W10 bone conductor, the endeavor presented a considerable array of challenges, which they faced with determination and resilience. Bone conduction has been around for a long time. There's some interesting history if you look it up on Wikipedia. It was used way before headphones were ever a thing. In my experience with full-size bone conduction headphones, it was always disappointing. Normal headphones produce sounds transmitted through the air, and we rely on eardrum to turn these into signals for the brain. Bone conduction works by bypassing the normal hearing process by producing vibrations that the cochlear picks up on. The cochlear is a fluid-filled, spiral-shaped cavity that looks very similar to a seashell found in the inner ear that plays a vital role in the sense of hearing and perception. I'm sure you have heard of the cochlea implant. Essentially, the same theory applies, and it's used here in the Raven IEMs, minus the part where you have to have the cochlea implanted surgically mounted to your skull. Ouch. The bone conduction system in the Raven acts as a sound reinforcement to the rest of the drivers in the IEM. This might be why I felt that I could feel the impact wave as I described earlier. Using it in addition to normal drivers provides a feeling of sound engulfment. Filling in the duties for the normal sound wave drivers are the 4 electrostatic drivers that provide upper frequency range, crafting a wonderful air texture to the sound. While you can't hear anywhere close to 100 kilohertz, what it does create is that your brain can decode this as energy, and this energy is what provides the air textures to the sound. It gives the illusion of a sound being much larger than realistically is. Rounding out the mid-range frequencies is again proprietary balanced armature drivers. They are faster than dynamic drivers and really help with the spoken voice. I find dynamic drivers in this position usually mimic a warmer tonality. Since the BA is used, you can also sense the moisture on the singer's lips. Empire describes the 2 W9 drivers as providing thunderous power and unmatched control, laying the foundation for a legendary bass experience. They're not kidding. Some of the best well-controlled bass responses I've heard are from this IEM. I did all my testing exclusively here on an Astel and Curran SB2000T. This unit gave me the ability to change the tonality between warm and analytical, as well as in between. It was the perfect tool. I plan to do more source testing, but this was the best place to start. I used the stock cable, the bronze IEM cable, and the Silver Dragon IEM cable for the Empire Ears 2-pin connection. The stock PW cable and the Bronze Dragon had similar tonalities, but were different. Both being that they were UPOCC copper cables led to the similarity. The stock cable is a little stiffer than our cables based on the conductor size and the geometry. Not stiff, but it did have a little bit of a mind of its own. I settled on the Silver Dragon IEM for Empire Ears to be my choice of cables for this IEM. It tightened up the bass, making it even more powerful and controlled. The UPOCC Silver has a way of adding gain to the frequency range due to the super low resistance. Things became even more airy and added a motion to the top end. In all cases, I used the 4.4 TRRS connection for the best signal output from the SB2000T. Note, also using the Korg tube circuit, there is no audible tube hiss that super sensitive IEMs can sometimes have. Thus, these IEMs are great for iBasso, Cayenne, and Astel and Curran devices utilizing this circuit. Whether you want an IEM for analytical listening, an IEM that lets you get lost in the music, an IEM for mastering or live performances, Empire has an IEM to fit all cases. In this case, you get an IEM that gets your feet moving. It brings excitement to the forefront. It's engaging. It's incredibly lively. It has hard-hitting, articulate bass. It's well-balanced and not shy on the top end. I imagine a rave going on in my ears. The Odin will still be my go-to for things such as jazz, blues, Americana, but all things else, I'm going with the Raven. It provides the right grit for rock and roll, the right wallop for EDM and rap, the right moves for shaking it on the dance floor with pop, R&B, and soul. Well done, Empire Ears. You have a new reference that is sure to please the masses. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like. If you got any questions for me, make sure to leave them below and we'll get back to you to talk more things about the Raven and great matches for which devices to use with them. Thank you so much.